Women over 65 often experience subtle but impactful changes in intimate health, like odor, dampness, or discomfort even with good hygiene. These issues aren't always medical, yet they deeply affect confidence and often go unspoken. Many accept them as part of aging, unaware that the answer may lie in something simple: their daily diet. In this video, we'll explore 7 easy-to-find foods that can naturally help keep the intimate area fresher, drier, and healthier, especially for women over 65. In the low hills of Siliguri, where golden pineapple fields stretch endlessly across the rolling land, lived a young woman named Neera, 27 years old, the daughter of a family that had grown pineapples for 3 generations. Although raised amid this natural beauty, Neera always dreamed of the city, of luxury cosmetics, alluring perfumes, and elegant shops. She worked at a small beauty salon in the heart of the city, always keeping her appearance perfectly polished. But beneath the layers of perfume and fresh-smelling clothes, she hid a private discomfort she dared not share with anyone. Her intimate area often had an odd odor, especially after tiring workdays. Even with thorough bathing, antibacterial soap, and feminine washes, the unpleasant smell kept returning, subtle yet persistent. One weekend, she returned to visit her grandmother in the countryside, where the air was sweet with ripe pineapples. During lunch, as Neera sighed and muttered, "The cleaner I try to be, the stranger I feel," her grandmother gently pushed a plate of golden pineapple slices toward her and said, "Eat, child. These pineapples don't just taste good, they make a girl fragrant from the inside out." Neera laughed. "You mean pineapples make people smell nice?" Her grandmother nodded, eyes twinkling like sparks. "I used to be like you, troubled by the smell down there. But ever since I began eating pineapple every day, it vanished. Folks in the village now call me Sweet Pineapple Granny." Half skeptical, Neera decided to try. Every morning, she ate a few slices of ripe pineapple. No sugar, no salt. Nothing changed on the first day. But by the 7th, she noticed it. Less dampness, no more stuffy discomfort, and that odd smell almost gone. Curious, she dug deeper and discovered that pineapple contains bromelain, an enzyme that aids digestion, cleanses the gut, and reduces inflammation. This, in turn, helps the intimate area stay clean, dry, and naturally pleasant from within. Plus, pineapple's vitamin C boosts immunity and makes the skin glow. From then on, Neera changed. She no longer relied on expensive cosmetics. Instead, she started a blog to share beauty tips through natural foods. The blog was called Pineapple Girl from Siliguri, a space where she showed how eating pineapple can make you healthy and beautiful from the inside out. Neera's story quickly spread. Young city girls, busy mothers, even middle-aged women began writing to thank her. And Neera, once someone who hid her secret, now stood confident and radiant, like the fresh scent of a ripe pineapple under the morning sun. In a quiet village on the edge of the Thar Desert, near the vibrant city of Jaipur, lived a young woman named Anika. She was a traditional potter, residing with her grandmother in a modest home filled with the scent of baked clay and spices. Each morning, the whir of the potter's wheel and the aroma of masala chai created a gentle symphony within their little house. Anika was loved by all for her skillful hands and hard-working nature. Yet, she carried a private shame. Her intimate area often had an unpleasant odor, even though she maintained strict personal hygiene. The persistent dampness and discomfort made her avoid gatherings and decline several marriage proposals from the villagers. Deep down, she always felt something was wrong with her body, even though doctors assured her there was no medical issue. One scorching afternoon, while selling her clay pots at the Jaipur market, Anika had a chance encounter with an elderly woman named Maya, a healer from Kerala who practiced Ayurveda. Standing close, Maya leaned in and whispered gently, "Your body is trying to speak to you. But don't worry, I know a simple remedy. Curd, Anika blushed, but Maya's warm gaze made her listen. Maya explained that curd contains beneficial lactobacillus bacteria, which helps balance internal flora, regulate vaginal pH, and reduce unpleasant odors. She gave a firm instruction: make your own at home. No sugar, no preservatives. That night, Anika returned home, warmed fresh cow's milk, let it cool, then poured it into an earthen pot she had crafted herself. She added a spoonful of old curd as starter, covered it with a cloth, and placed it near the kiln. That first pot of curd carried nothing but a faint, honest hope. Every day, she ate 2 spoonfuls, morning and evening. Within a week, she felt lighter, fresher. Her grandmother noticed how Anika smiled more and no longer shied away from people. After 2 weeks, the odor vanished completely. Anika felt free. Soon after, she began selling homemade fermented curd in small clay pots. Women from the village came to ask about her secret. Anika simply smiled and said, "It's not a medicine nor magic, just curd and a little bit of love for your own body." Anika's story spread across Jaipur. The once reserved potter became an inspiration, teaching women that healing doesn't always come from outside, but often begins with something small, like a spoonful of homemade curd. In Munnar, the lush green hills famed for their endless tea plantations, lived a woman named Anu, 43 years old, an eco-tour guide. Every morning, she would lead international tourists through winding paths lined with tea bushes, rocky streams, and organic vegetable gardens, passionately explaining the deep connection between humans and nature. She loved her work, loved the earth, and adored her small backyard garden where she grew herbs, vegetables, and wildflowers with her own hands. But there was something that silently chipped away at her confidence, something deeply personal that she never dared to speak of. Her intimate area often had a mild yet persistent odor, especially on hot days or after long trekking tours. Despite eating clean, using natural soaps, and wearing breathable clothes, she couldn't shake off the discomfort. She would always keep a bit of distance from others, and sometimes quietly excused herself from conversations, masking her insecurity with a forced smile. Anu had always assumed it was just how her body was. Maybe it was normal. But the worry never really left her. One day, during a tour of an organic farm on the outskirts of Munnar, she met an elderly German woman named Greta, a guest who was fascinated by herbs and leafy greens. Greta, a retired nutritionist, was now traveling the world to explore local cuisines and natural remedies. As the group rested beside a kale patch, Greta gently asked Anu, "Do you eat dark leafy greens every day?" "Not just herbs. I mean spinach, kale, lettuce, celery." Anu laughed. "I grow them actually, but to be honest, I don't eat much. I always thought they're just good for digestion." "Oh." Greta shook her head slightly and replied in a warm tone, "Leafy greens contain chlorophyll, the green pigment in plants. It helps cleanse the blood, reduce body odor, balance vaginal pH, and soothe inflammation. It's a quiet friend to every woman." Those words struck something in Anu. She returned home and looked again at the garden she had poured her heart into, one she had admired more than she had consumed. From that day on, she began a new journey. Every meal included leafy greens lightly sautéed with coconut oil, tossed in a salad with yogurt and mint, or juiced with ginger and lemon. Her favorite was a spinach salad with yogurt, cucumber, and dill. After 1 week, she felt lighter. After 2, the odor had nearly vanished. No more dampness or end-of-day discomfort. Her mood lifted, her skin glowed, and her hair stopped falling so much. For the first time in months, Anu could stand close to her guests without worry. She felt as though she had been renewed from within. But her story didn't end there. Anu began sharing her green eating journey on social media, posting pictures of meals, juice recipes, and vibrant salads. A week later, she launched a small class in her backyard garden called Green Inside, teaching people how to cook with leafy vegetables. Villagers and even tourists started visiting, not just to learn recipes, but to hear the story of a woman who reclaimed her confidence with simple bundles of greens. Anu was no longer just a tour guide. She had become a guide in the truest sense, not just through forests, but through the path of self-healing for many women. And from that garden, the scent of fresh greens spread not just through the air, but deep into the hearts of women who once believed that body odor was something they simply had to live with. In Munnar, the lush green hills famed for their endless stretches of tea plantations, lived a woman named Anu, 43, who worked as an eco-tour guide. Every morning, she led international visitors through winding paths of tea forests, rocky streams, and organic gardens, sharing stories of how nature and humans are deeply connected. She loved her work, loved nature, and adored the small backyard garden where she personally grew vegetables, herbs, and wildflowers. But there was something that quietly undermined Anu's confidence, something deeply personal she had never spoken about. Her intimate area often had a mild but lingering odor, especially on hot days or after long tour walks. Despite eating well, using natural soaps, and wearing breathable clothing, she still felt uncomfortable, always keeping a cautious distance from others. At times, the odor made her quietly withdraw from conversations, masking her insecurity with a polite, uneasy smile. Anu had long believed perhaps her body was just like that. But the worry never really left her. One day, during a tour of an organic farm on the outskirts of Munnar, she met an elderly German woman named Greta, a tourist fascinated by vegetables and herbs. Greta, once a nutritionist, was now retired and traveling the world to explore local cuisines and wellness traditions. As the group rested beside a kale patch, Greta gently asked Anu, "Do you eat dark leafy greens every day? Not just herbs like coriander, I mean spinach, kale, lettuce, celery." Anu laughed. "I grow them myself, but honestly, I don't eat much. I thought they were mainly good for digestion." Greta shook her head softly and replied in a warm tone, "Leafy greens contain chlorophyll, the green pigment. It helps cleanse the blood, reduce body odor, balance vaginal pH, and ease inflammation. It's a quiet friend to every woman." Those words struck a deep chord in Anu. That evening, she returned home and stood in her garden, the one she had poured her heart into but rarely eaten from. From that day forward, she began her journey of change. Every meal now included leafy greens, sometimes lightly stir-fried with coconut oil, sometimes tossed in yogurt and mint salads, or blended into juices with ginger and lemon. Her favorite was a spinach salad with yogurt, cucumber, and fresh dill. After a week, her body felt lighter. After 2, the intimate odor had nearly vanished. No more damp discomfort at the end of long days. Her mood lifted, her skin glowed, her hair fell out less. For the first time in months, Anu could stand close to her guests without worry. She felt like she had been renewed from within. But the story didn't end there. Anu began sharing her green eating tips online, posting photos of her meals, juice recipes, and colorful salads. A week later, she hosted a small workshop called Green Inside, teaching how to cook with leafy greens right in her backyard garden. Villagers and even tourists started visiting. They came not just to learn cooking, but to hear the story of a woman who regained her confidence with nothing more than humble leaves. Anu was no longer just a guide through the forest. She became a guide in the truest sense, showing other women how to return home to their own bodies. And from her garden, the scent of fresh greens spread not just through the air, but into the hearts of women who once believed body odor was something they could never change. Just like Anu, there was another woman in Darjeeling who had lived with the same silent worry, but she found her answer in just a small slice of ginger. Amid the misty slopes of Shimla, where pine forests whisper day and night and tiny wooden houses nestle against the hillsides, lived a 33-year-old English teacher named Ria. She lived alone in a small tiled-roof cottage beside the village school, where she had been teaching for nearly 10 years. Life was simple and peaceful, but Ria carried a quiet burden she had never shared with anyone. Though young, clean, and mindful of her hygiene, Ria often felt a persistent dampness and slight odor in her intimate area, especially during stressful workdays or irregular eating habits. She had tried feminine washes, switched soaps, even visited a gynecologist, but all results were normal, with no infections or medical concerns. Still, the feeling of insecurity clung to her like a shadow. Because of it, Ria kept her distance from others, especially from the man she secretly had feelings for, a maths teacher from the neighboring school. She had once turned down his sincere proposal not because she didn't care, but because she feared if anyone discovered this delicate issue, they might avoid her forever. One day, the school organized a field trip to a kiwi farm high up in the hills. The farm was owned by an elderly lady named Shalini, nearly 70, petite in frame with glowing skin and bright, energetic eyes. When she learned that Ria was a teacher, she offered her a freshly plucked kiwi from the garden. "You know," Shalini said with a smile as she handed the fruit to Ria, "I eat kiwi every morning not just for my skin, but to keep my intimate health in check. I don't need perfumes or special products." Ria looked surprised. "Kiwi can really do that?" The old woman nodded, her voice calm and warm. "Kiwi is rich in vitamins C, E, and K, and packed with powerful antioxidants. It helps balance pH levels, reduce inflammation, and keeps the intimate area dry and clean. Eating it regularly helps purify the body from the inside, from the gut to the skin to the most sensitive places." Those words echoed in Ria's mind as she returned home. The very next morning, she went straight to the local market and picked up a few ripe kiwis. She began eating one each morning, sometimes with yogurt, sometimes in salads, and sometimes just plain and fresh. She also cut down on fried and spicy food and drank more water. After a week, she felt lighter. After 2 weeks, the odor was gone, and her intimate area stayed fresh and dry even after long, tiring school days. Her mood lifted, her skin became smoother, her breath fresher, and her hair stopped falling as much. For the first time in years, Ria wore a light-colored dress, stood close to her students without worry, and smiled more, her eyes reflecting a quiet confidence. And when the maths teacher asked her out for a walk at sunset again, this time, she said yes without hesitation. At the end of the school year, Ria held a small talk for the senior girls titled "Eat Clean, Live Fresh." She didn't speak too directly about intimate health, but her gentle, sincere advice about natural foods, listening to one's body, and the humble kiwi fruit held their attention. After the session, one student slipped her a small note. "Dear Miss Ria, today I didn't just learn about healthy eating. I learned how to love myself, starting from the smallest things." Oh, Ria kept that note tucked inside her tea box as a quiet reminder that healing begins the moment we become gentle with our own bodies. And sometimes, that healing begins with just one kiwi every morning. Nagpur, the sun-drenched city known for its sprawling orange orchards, was home to Kavita, a 29-year-old office worker at a private company. She was meticulous, punctual, always dressed neatly with her hair tied back and a gentle, composed smile. On the outside, everyone saw her as a modern, confident woman, dynamic and self-assured. But deep inside, Kavita carried a silent worry. She had never spoken about an unpleasant smell in her intimate area, especially at the end of the day or after long meetings in closed spaces. Despite maintaining personal hygiene, using specialized feminine products, and even visiting doctors, the problem never truly went away. The doctors assured her she was perfectly healthy, with no infections or medical issues. Still, for Kavita, it was a crack in her confidence, especially when standing close to the man she was dating. She started to avoid physical closeness, always keeping a little distance, afraid that her body odor might shatter the image she had worked so hard to maintain. There were moments when Kavita thought she would have to live with it forever after trying everything with no lasting results. One Sunday, her mother invited her to visit her grandparents in the countryside, where the old orange orchard still stood heavy with fruit, just like in the old days. The gentle scent of orange peels floated through the air, stirring childhood memories of carefree afternoons running through the orchard with her cousins, laughing and picking fruit. As the family rested under a tree, her mother gently asked, "You've seemed tired lately, Beta. Is something bothering you?" Kavita hesitated, then finally opened up. "Mum, I feel like my intimate area smells, even though I keep clean and have gone to the doctor. It just won't go away, and it makes me uncomfortable around others." Her mother simply smiled, peeled a juicy orange, and handed it to her. "I used to be the same. A doctor once advised me to eat oranges, sweet limes, or grapefruits every day. The strange odor disappeared. My body felt lighter, and everything down there stayed naturally fresh." Kavita's eyes widened. "Just by eating oranges? It really works?" Her mother nodded warmly. "Citrus fruits are full of vitamin C. They boost immunity, reduce inflammation, and help balance the pH in the intimate area. When your body is clean and strong from the inside, the outside reflects that too." That night, Kavita decided to give it a try. She began drinking fresh orange juice every morning, adding mandarins or grapefruit to her lunch, and replacing sugary desserts with chilled orange slices. At the same time, she cut down on coffee, greasy foods, and drank more water. Within a few days, she already felt less sluggish. But around day 10, something magical happened. The odor disappeared, the dampness faded, and her body felt gently fragrant, as though freshness was blooming from within. Even after a long day at work, she still felt light and clean. The change made Kavita shine. She no longer hesitated to sit close to her boyfriend, spoke confidently in meetings, and even began wearing light-colored clothes again, something she used to avoid. From that point on, she visited the Nagpur Orange Market every weekend to buy fresh fruit. She even started a small blog called Sundar City, which means Fresh City, where she shared food tips for women to feel clean, light, and more in love with their bodies from the inside out. Whenever someone asked her how she always looked so fresh, Kavita would simply smile and say, "Maybe it's because I learned how to care for myself with sweet oranges, just like in my childhood." And just like that, from an old orchard on the edge of the city, Kavita rediscovered something most precious: confidence in herself, and the gentle care her body had always deserved, but that she once thought she had lost forever. Nagpur, a sun-drenched city famed for its vast orange orchards, is home to 29-year-old Kavita, an office employee at a private company. She is known for being punctual, meticulous, always dressed neatly with her hair tied up and a gentle smile on her face. On the surface, Kavita seems like a modern, confident, and dynamic woman. But deep inside, she carried a silent burden she never dared to share with anyone, an unpleasant, intimate odor, especially at the end of the day or after long meetings in closed rooms. Despite regular hygiene, using specialized products, and even seeing a doctor, the issue never went away. The doctor said she was perfectly healthy, with no infections or underlying conditions. Still, for Kavita, that discomfort chipped away at her self-esteem, especially when close to her boyfriend. She began keeping her distance, fearing her body odor would ruin the image she worked so hard to maintain. At one point, Kavita even believed she'd have to live with it forever. She had tried everything, with no lasting results. One Sunday, her mother invited her to visit her grandparents in the outskirts of Nagpur, where the old orange grove still bloomed abundantly. The soothing scent of citrus peel floated through the air, bringing back childhood memories of laughter and orange picking with her cousins. While the family sat resting under the orange trees, her mother gently asked, "You seem tired lately, beta. Is something bothering you?" Kavita hesitated, then finally opened up. "Ma, I feel like there's a smell down there. I keep myself clean, I've seen a doctor, but it just doesn't go away. It's embarrassing, especially around others." Her mother smiled softly, peeled a ripe orange, and handed it to her. "I used to have the same problem. A doctor once told me to eat citrus fruits every day. Oranges, mosambi, even grapefruit. The smell vanished. I felt lighter, and my body smelled fresher, even down there." Kavita's eyes widened. "Just by eating oranges?" Her mother nodded. "Citrus fruits are rich in vitamin C. They boost immunity, reduce inflammation, and help balance vaginal pH. When your body is clean and healthy from within, the outside follows." That evening, Kavita decided to give it a try. She started drinking fresh orange juice every morning, added mosambi or grapefruit to her lunch, and swapped her dessert for chilled orange slices. She also cut down on coffee, greasy food, and drank more water. Within a few days, she felt more energetic, but around the 10th day, something amazing happened. The odd smell vanished, the damp feeling was gone, and her body felt lightly fragrant from the inside out. Even after a long workday, she still felt fresh and confident. This change lit up her entire demeanor. She no longer avoided intimacy, stood confidently while presenting at work, and even wore her light-colored outfits again, the ones she once hesitated to wear. Since then, every weekend she stops by the orange market in Nagpur to buy fresh fruit. She even started a small blog called Sundar City, meaning Fresh City, where she shares diet tips for women to feel clean, light, and in love with their own bodies, from the inside out. Whenever someone asks her why she always looks so refreshed, Kavita simply smiles and says, "Maybe because I've learned to care for myself with sweet oranges, just like in childhood." Oh, and so, from an old orange grove on the edge of town, Kavita found something she thought she had lost forever: confidence in herself and a gentle love for her body. In the misty morning air of Darjeeling, where lush green tea hills roll like gentle waves, lived a 66-year-old woman named Padma. She stayed alone in a small wooden cottage at the foot of a hill. Her life moved slowly and peacefully, picking vegetables in the morning, brewing tea at noon, and knitting sweaters by the crackling fire in the evening. But there was something Padma had never shared with anyone: a small but persistent worry, an unpleasant smell from her intimate area. Despite maintaining good hygiene and wearing breathable undergarments, the odor would still linger by the end of each day. It made her hesitant to visit the market, shy around her neighbors, and at times it made her feel older, weaker. One afternoon, as she lay resting from a mild cold, her niece from Siliguri came to visit, carrying a bag of ginger tea. The young woman brewed a pot, adding a spoonful of honey and a few drops of lemon, then poured it into an old clay cup. The scent of ginger filled the room, sharp, yet soothing. Everyone should drink ginger daily, whether sick or healthy. Her niece smiled. It doesn't just help with colds. Ginger is great for digestion, purifies the blood, and most importantly, it's wonderful for women's intimate health, especially as they age. Padma was surprised. Ginger, the same spice she used in curries and chutneys, could help with that? Ginger contains gingerol, a powerful anti-inflammatory compound. It balances the body's bacteria, reduces odor and unusual discharge, and improves blood circulation. It warms you from the inside out, the niece explained. That night, Padma breathed in the steam of her ginger tea before bed. The next morning, she added a few slices of ginger to her vegetable soup. A week passed, then 2. She drank ginger tea every morning and soaked her feet in warm ginger water each night. And then one day, she noticed the unpleasant smell was gone. Her body felt lighter, no longer damp, and her spirit unusually bright. Padma began going to the market more often, chatted freely with old friends, and even invited 3 of them over for tea. When they curiously asked what her secret was, how she looked years younger, Padma simply smiled, poured them another cup, and said, "It's just a little piece of ginger, but it reminded me that I'm still a woman, whole and complete." Lo, in the arid yet stunning highlands of Ladakh, where the deep blue sky meets the mighty Himalayas, lived a woman named Tashi Dolma, 41 years old. She resided in Leh, a small mountain town where white houses cling to steep hillsides like bird nests. Tashi was a craftswoman, carrying a bamboo pole every day, hung with woolen bangles, hand-woven scarves, and small pouches of seeds she packed herself. Few knew that Tashi had spent a long period living withdrawn, avoiding contact with others. Not because of illness, but due to a deeply private discomfort, an unpleasant, intimate odor. It wasn't painful, nor was there any infection, but the dampness, heaviness, and subtle smell lingering by the end of each day, especially after hours of walking in Ladakh's dry cold, gradually wore down her confidence. She had tried Tibetan herbal teas, steam baths, even traditional medicinal soaks, but all of it brought only temporary relief. Then, one spring morning at a small town market, Tashi met Anita Rao, a young tourist from South India and a professional nutritionist. As they spoke, Tashi quietly shared her worry. Anita didn't laugh or judge. Instead, she gently said, "Have you ever tried flax seeds, chia seeds, or walnuts? These tiny things are like gold for women." Tashi was surprised. In Leh, meals were simple: yak milk, dry flatbreads, and barley soup. Seeds were almost unheard of. Anita carefully took out a few small packets from her bag, chia, flax, and walnuts, and explained, "Soak chia seeds in warm water, grind flax seeds and sprinkle over soup. Eat a few walnuts daily. They're rich in omega-3, help balance hormones, naturally moisturize the intimate area, and reduce odor from the root." Tashi decided to give it a try. At first, just a few seeds, but soon it became a habit. She added flaxseed to her morning porridge, dropped soaked chia seeds into warm tea, and nibbled on walnuts during quiet moments. After 3 weeks, something remarkable happened. The odor disappeared. The heavy, damp feeling was gone, and instead there was a sense of freshness and lightness. Even her irregular periods, once affected by age, returned to a healthy rhythm. Tashi began to glow. she returned to the lively streets filled with tourists, confidently chatting and selling her crafts. Beside the wool scarves, she started offering small pouches of what she called Ladakh health seeds, tiny but powerful. A small sign at her stall read, "Not everything small is meaningless. Sometimes, just a handful of seeds is enough to help a woman bloom again."